everyone. Welcome to Cold Wind Talkers, brought to you live by Cold Wind Talk Group, Angel Rays 88, and Triple Vibes Radio. Our executive producers are Carl Van Neves III, Sean Samuel, and Dougie Fresh. I'm your host, John Frantangelo, Vietnam vet, and the author of The Last Goodbye. Along with me today is my special guest and good friend, Eugene Parada, who is a Vietnam veteran, who is a Purple Heart recipient, and devotes much of his time in helping the vets, and especially disabled vets. We will ask Eugene to tell his story and maybe squeeze an episode or two of his Vietnam experiences. Before we get into the show and hear Eugene's story, I'd like to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day, and cheers to all my Irish friends out there, and to all those celebrating this special occasion and this happy occasion. I ask one thing, though, that you all please have a designated driver, or take a cab, a bus, or a train to get you all home safely and sound to your family and loved ones. Now, I'd like to tell you all something. Now, I'm shooting from the hip here, so please be patient with me and bear with me. The other night, I was lying in bed, and I was thinking, how could I add something to this show that it would be different? And I came up with an idea. I'd have to go back 50 years to 1971, when I was 23 years old. I had just left my wife at the time, which, by the way, was the smartest and best move I ever made in my entire life. And if you read the book, you'll understand why. You're laughing, Gene? Eugene read the book, so he knows. Okay. I was fresh. I was free and started to go to nightclubs. And mostly alone, because I was alone mostly at the time. I really didn't hang out with guys or anything, with people. I went to this club. It was located at 242nd Street and Neary Avenue, which was the borderline between the Bronx and Mount Vernon. And Larry Chance and the Earls were playing at the club. It was on a weekend. And when I got there early before the show. So I ordered a drink. So I'm sipping the drink, and Larry Chance comes on the microphone. He introduces the members of the band, and then he wishes everyone happy. Thanks everybody for being at the show and watching him. Now he said that they start the show every show they do. They start with a song that they wrote and they dedicated to their original drummer, who was killed in an army incident when he dropped out of his helicopter and his parachute didn't open. And the song that he devoted to him was called "I Believe." And I thought the song was just great. Okay. So now, to come back to the present time, I called up Carl Van Neves, and I said, "Carl, I got an idea how I want to start the show." He said, "What is it?" I said, "Look, I want to devote a song to all our veterans who lost their lives each show that we do." I said, "What do you think?" He said, "That's a great idea. Really fantastic." I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yeah, man, do it. Just do it." Okay. So now I hung up the phone, and I was still I wasn't resting easy with me, you know. So I went on. I took the phone, you know, and you press this button, and this little swirly thing comes on, and you could ask the phone questions, and like you know, how do you spell this word, or who started this movie, that movie, whatever, you know. So I asked the phone, what was the name of the original drummer in the musical group Larry Chance and the Earls? And it came back and said, I could not find anything on the web to tell me who was the original drummer in the musical group Larry Chance and the Earls. So I figured, oh, that was the end of that, right? So now I go on my computer, and I go on one of my groups, which is the Vietnam Veterans. And I'm scrolling down, and all of a sudden I come across this post. And it said, The song, I Believe, written by Larry Chance and the Earls, was dedicated to a member of their band who died at the age 18, and his name was Larry Palumba. I said, you got to be kidding me. I was just talking about this. How could this, I mean, what are the odds? You know? So then I said, well, this is a hint to do this on the show. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the hint. So now, excuse me. Okay. So now I'm losing my place here. I have to do my notes because it's real. This is sudden in a moment. Okay, now, so I'm going to dedicate this song, I Believe, to my cousin Tony Rutigliano, who died, who was killed in Vietnam on July 26, 1967. But the ironic thing is that he wasn't even born in America. He was born in Italy. He came over when he was 6 years old, okay? And him and I got so close that we grew up together and we were inseparable. So now I had to take his body home to his grieving family, okay? And I had to, after the wake and the funeral, I had to return back to Vietnam, leaving my wife at the time 5 months pregnant. Okay, now, so I'm sorry. Okay, he was stationed in Cu Chi, Vietnam. Okay, so now he was driving a PC and it was blown up. So now, like I said, I had to take his body home. Okay. So I'm going to ask. So now I want to dedicate this song, like I said, and in this song, I believe there's in the bridge of the song, Larry Chance sings these words: "We've all lost someone, somebody who was very dear to us." So I'd like to ask you to do something for me while I play this song. Instead of looking at my mug for like 3 minutes, whatever the song takes, I said, please, I would like to ask you to all you close your eyes and visualize someone who is near and dear to you and is not with us anymore, even if it's a pet, because they could be near and dear to us also. Okay. So now, with the help of my newfound friend here, Alexa, I'm going to, and hope that she obliges us, and I'm going to ask her.
I didn't catch that.
Okay, Alexa.
Please say that again.
Okay, Alexa, play I Believe by Larry Chance and the Earls.
I Believe by Larry Chance and the Earls on Amazon Music.
Somewhere in the darkest night, a candle glows. A candle glows. I believe for everyone who goes astray, someone will come to show the smallest prayer can still be heard, can still be heard. And I believe that someone in the grave somewhere hears every word, hears every word. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or touch a leaf, or see the sky, then I know I know that at one time or another, I guess we've all lost someone. Somebody near and dear to our hearts. But you know, I've got to tell you, there's no cause for fear because there's someone above. And he watches over them, over each and every one of us. Oh, every time I hear a newborn baby cry, oh, don't you leave or see the sky, then somewhere above, there is a heaven. Somewhere above, there is a star.
I'd like to thank you all for that, and I really hope you got something out of it. Now, without waiting any longer, I want to reintroduce my good friend Eugene Parada. Welcome, Eugene. Welcome aboard, buddy.
Thanks, John. That brings back a lot of memories. And also, just to let you know, there are a couple of clubs. Near Reed Avenue, I went to school in Mount St. Michael. That's near Reed Avenue, right? So there's a club on 238th in Near Reed. It was called the Act 3. On 241st Street, by the L, was a club called the Fillmore.
Okay.
It was Fillmore East. That's what it was. And down the block further, right across the street from the train yards, all right, on 241st Street, because that's where the 2 train ended, right there. Those train yards. There was another club there, and God help me that I can't remember, but that's the club you're talking about.
Probably the one I'm talking about.
Right. Because I used to walk that way. Sometimes from Mount St. Michael, you would cut through 2 blocks and go down that block and come to the L and take the train. But I remember, I remember those days. That's where I met my first wife in that club, actually.
You got a first one too,
that was beautiful, John. That reminds me of the feast on Villa Avenue. We used to have 2 feasts on Villa Avenue, going over 100 years, and all the groups in the Bronx that were Dion and the rest of these people would come to Villa Avenue, and we'd always have a bandstand that have the Italian music, and then they'd always bring in popular rock and roll groups, and everybody came in. Larry Chance and the Girls, who I'm going to reference in a few minutes for you and I about something we're going to do, and a guy named Ronnie James that came from Van Cortlandt Avenue. He cut.
Oh, Ronnie James.
Ronnie James sang, I Believe,
the biggest
also.
hustler I've ever seen in my life.
Right. Ronnie James came to Villa Avenue and sang a cappella. He sang I Believe, and knocked everybody down. Ronnie James could sing. He lived on Van Cortlandt Avenue going towards Bailey Avenue.
Right between,
so that brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah, man, oh man. You know, when I came back from that, I made a few games. One called Blurb about Vietnam.
Yes.
You know, tabletop games. All right. So I met him, and he's over the house, and he tried to get me to with the games, to help promote them.
Yeah.
And he also had these for a set of pictures, mirror pictures.
Yes.
Sell for him in General Motors. Now he had the biggest hustle I've seen. You walk in his apartment, and all he had was paraphernalia all over the place.
Right. So. And he used to live in the house right off of Bailey and coming down the hill. But if you go up that block, there was a VFW there on all off Avenue, and he used to be part of that. I mean, back then, I didn't. When I came back, I didn't join a VFW. I didn't join an American Legion. For me, I don't know if it was for everybody, but when I came home, I tried to shed my skin like, a snake would, and just go about my life like it was previous. It didn't work for me. It took 5 or 6, 7 years before I had to overcome all of that also. So, I mean, but I remember Ronnie James, boy, he could sing. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I spoke to him not long ago. I have his phone.
You know where else they used to come? Where I used to live on 2/4 Street, it's between Valentine Avenue and Villa Avenue. Concourse, there was an underpass, and a concourse would run over it, almost at the end of the concourse. But there was an underpass. So that and that underpass, that's where they would sing. The Battle of the Bands would always take place. Or we had a subway tunnel on the D train that ran from Bedford Park, which is actually 200th Street, to my block, to 3rd Street. It was a long subway tunnel that went down underneath. Like you could walk there in the bad weather back, and they would come in there and they would do these actual, I mean, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, and Louis Lyman and the Kodaks. There was an a cappella album they practiced singing called The Paragons Meet the Jesters. I mean, and all of these guys, and that one was just all a cappella, and they would practice under that underpass or in the subway tunnel. So when we would learn how to sing, you know, you would learn how to sing. We would try to keep up with them, but I lost my voice a long time ago, and I was more of a screamer, but it was amazing to watch. And I mean, some of these guys could really sing. When you get into a place that just holds the sound and it just reverberates throughout the whole system. Yeah, I remember that real well, man. Real well. The Battle of the Bands, kidding me, man? Yeah. Oh, that was incredible.
If anything to bring them days back, man.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I remember in the 50s watching Dion come to Villa Avenue and singing the Feast with the Belmonts. And they hadn't made their big song. They hadn't made it, Lonely Teenager, because that was his first pop, He made, I'm just a lonely teenager. But they were coming there to sing, and they were getting out, they were getting known, and they were going to sign a contract, and they had this great song. And you could hear those guys, and they would harmonize. And every neighborhood had a group of guys that would try to stand up and sing. It was amazing, man. Yeah, it was amazing. Singing. I remember trying to sing under the tunnel because I love the Platters. I love the way the Platters could sing. Yeah. Right. And I was trying to sing Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. And I am telling you, I tried 3,427 ways to get that note and couldn't do it. But we had a lot of fun. John, that was a lot of fun growing up, man.
That was really.
That was a lot of fun growing up, man.
That was the time that I was playing in the band. I was the drummer, and I was playing in the band and everything. So.
You told me that. You were a drummer.
Yeah.
Wow. And, like I said, my sister's godfather was Blazes.
Right.
So I was always over there. My father worked there. All my uncles worked there. In fact, my wife's mother and father got married there, and my father and all of my family were all the waiters, bartenders. It was me. I know Blaze was. So we used to go there.
Yeah, I got married to my second wife. Then one was called Maestros after Blazes.
Did I ever get married in Blazes? No, I didn't get married in Blazes. I got married in. I don't remember. I think no. The last one I got married was in. I married Loretta, who's much younger. We married in the Scarsdale Elks. The hottest day of the year, 1984. It was 104 degrees. Just an off the cuff story. So it was the day of the Belmont. All right. It was the first Saturday in June 9th, 1984. And Loretta's young, she's 15 years younger than me. And she wanted this big wedding, so we got the Scarsdale Elks off of Central Avenue. And it's 104 degrees. 104. I don't care where you go. I don't care air conditioners breaking down, 200 people. I had to cut 200 people out. I mean, we had almost 600 people. I have a big family. She's got a big family. We had to cut people out. So anyway, we go to this place, and we're watching. My mother, God, she's still alive. My mother. All right, she's gonna be 97. So my mother gets in there and she says, "Where's the bar?" "Right here." She says, "They have a television?" I said, "Yeah, Ma, they gotta have a television. I have to go inside with the bridal party." I said, "But the bartender will put anything you want." She goes, "Could she just put on the Belmont?" Because my mother, she bets on the big three races. So she bets the Belmont. That was the day a horse named Swell died on the track.
Wow.
He had died of heat. It was the hottest day of the year. They ran this race. The horse dies on the track. They had to surround him with like some curtains, and they shot him on the track. I hear the scream. We're upstairs. I hear the scream. I come out. My mother goes, "They just killed my horse."
Oh, God.
It was 104 degrees, and eventually, like an hour and a half later, the air conditioning went, so everybody's sweating to death, and we're all in dress clothes. Oh man, I don't know what happened to those days. What happened to those days? Anyway, it's good. You know what, John? It's good to talk to you. I'm glad that you're getting out there and you're promoting your book, and people should know that not just the book, because I told John this to anybody who's out there listening. I have a problem reading or watching most Vietnam stories. I have gotten through some of them. Some of them I just can't. So when I read something, I get to a point I have to stop. I can't. There's a reason I do this. It's probably in me. It's probably better I just keep my mouth shut sometimes, and I don't expound on it. But starting to read John's book and some of the things coming on, you all should know out there that this doesn't happen in a vacuum. My friend John had to go through a lot before he could open this up and let it go. And then he had to bring back some memories of his best friend, his cousins, people that you know and you're with. It's just very hard. It's very hard to do it. And it's very hard to do it fluidly. And the beginnings of the book, as I started to read, it was fluid. You could write something, it's disjointed, you don't get it, it's hard, you don't know. John put it together in a way you could read it. It flows, but it's hard to speak about. So trying to write it and find the words that would fit, that most people would understand, is really difficult. And I really commend you for that. I've been asked by more than one person to write my story. And I would say to myself, why would I want to do that? I'd rather talk about it with you. All right. We already have social work. You and I have, one of my really good friends, and she works on our board for Purple Heart Homes, is a social worker. She was the social worker in Building 12 in Montrose. And she was the worker for psychosocial rehab and recovery. That's what she did. And guys like you and I would go there, and you try to find your way. If they have what they call VA has what they call a vocational rehab. It's called voc rehab, and you go there, and they try and find you if you want to go back to work, if you want to do something different. They try and get you through these tough stretches. So Lorraine was the I guess the leader of this group, and that's how I met her. And you have to talk to people, and a lot of these people are really serious about what they do. It takes a while to become a social worker. You have to be able to write well. You have to be able to listen. You have to be able to wait for the person to finish before you can speak. But a lot of these people think that they're going to see you, and they're going to talk to John Frantangelo, and they're going to solve the problems, and they're going to win a Nobel Prize for science. I figured it out. And and a lot of us realize that. And so you don't you don't have to tell everything. You give them a little bit, they work on it. I gave away a lot of my life, and I didn't want to give the rest of it up. So I commend you for that, because it took a lot of guts to put it down on paper and pencil and let the rest of the world see how exposed you were to a lot of things. And you listen, two Bronx guys, about the same age, just about a couple of months maybe apart. I always look up to people that have the ability to tell how their feelings are, and how you can you do that. I'm a very emotional person. We're Italian. We're allowed to be emotional. I think it's in the gravy. When you make the hot sausage and you put it with the meatballs, and then when you eat, it has to make us emotional. I think that's the way it is. I get very emotional about things, and when I have to say what I have to say, I'm going to say it. I will probably throw an F-bomb in there every once in a while, but usually I get my point across. But there are certain things that I can't tell. I don't think I could tell them right, or I don't think I could bring it out the way you did in your book. I mean, can you just tell us how difficult it was for you to actually bring that out and bring it out in words that we would all understand, and how it was? Because I don't think a lot of people understand that.
No, well, luckily I wrote it like almost 50 years ago when I had everything fresh in my mind.
Correct.
So I had notes. I mean, stacks of notes, scribbled on the side of the paper, on this and that. Then as the years went on, I just tucked it away. I mean, it collected dust in the closet for years, okay? Until I was told by some people that, we read a few episodes from, this is really good, continue to write it and finish it. So now, as I'm writing, I'm going over the notes, and I'm really struggling because, like I said, they're scribbling all over the place. Right? I mean, hundreds of pages. As I'm writing, I said, I want to write this book so that people who read it could understand the writing, and it's easy. And they don't have to have a dictionary next to them. And if you do that, if you have a big word with 10 letters, when you could do it with a word with 3 letters, that everybody understands. Because if you have to stop and say, what does this word mean? And look it up, it takes away the whole flow of it and the meaning of it, And I didn't never went to college. I'm just like you and me, we're street guys, and we just talk the way we talk, and that's it. And matter of fact, when I was doing it, and I found the first publisher I went to got back to me within 5 or 6 days. They loved it, so they said we want to publish a book. So it goes through a process, and then they give you to the editor, and as they have a great system. I mean, every line in the book, starting from the title, is numbered. Okay, every line. Okay?
Every line, yes, I know that. Yes.
Okay, so you got 300 something pages. You got a lot of lines. So now numbers. So if you have, let's say, the first paragraph, so you go paragraph 1, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, line 7, third word in, change to this, and they got it right. So I had my own system to do it, and actually, my not the editor, but my contact, right? He said, look, you're making it so easy for us. He said to me, he said, matter of fact, I'm going to use you as an example when we promote our, editing and publishing, right? I said, fine, great. So now, like I said, I didn't go to college, so I didn't want to use big words. And I don't want people to look like, that I'm better than them because I'm using these fancy words, stuff like that. So no, it's one-on-one. And here's the thing with the editors. So they would write back to me and they say, look, such and such a paragraph, line, beep, 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 boop. He says, change it to this, right? So I'd write him back. So no. Look, I said, look, this is me. This is how I talk.
This is how you would say
the way I want
with speaking it. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the way I want it. Once in a while they have a word that have a different meaning. I say, all right, you can change that word. I'll let that go. But I had the final say, which was good. You know what I mean? So that's what I did, and I wrote it that. And as far as your question, as far as how difficult it was for me, I think that I've seen so many of my friends die, and especially the episode with my cousin, because that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I must have become what's the word, numb to all of it, So I was able to write it because, like I said, I've gone through so many hardships with this loss of friends and everything, seeing them die right in my arms and all this, and so I got that in me, and I think it kind of, from seeing so much of it, I think it kind of numbed me, so I was able to write it. I don't know if you understand that.
No, I understand that perfectly. Sometimes when you're numb, all right, you can do things like when you do rehab, they try and let you numb the pain a little bit so you can do the exercise in rehab so you can get the motion. I know that. That's why you take, whatever drugs they give you before you do your rehab so you could actually do it, because otherwise you'd be in too much pain. In your case, emotional pain. John, I know that. I know. To relate a story that I couple of stories that I had been in, and you know me, I could speak. I mean, in my sleep, I could do 400 words, without taking a breath. All right, give me a cup of coffee, and everybody better get something for their ears because I could speak forever. I know that. But when it came to somebody was trying to draw some things out of me, I started to stumble over the words. I couldn't finish the thought. I immediately flashed back to 1968, June, July, or August, whatever months, and things that were happening, and couldn't I couldn't put the words together because the events were happening again in my head. As I was trying to explain that,
Right.
50 years later, it's maybe if I had written it down like you did, I just never thought of writing it down. I never thought that I would ever have to use those memories again or talk about things that and you want to know the truth, how I feel about this. I'm glad you did it. All right. Because the Vietnam veteran ship is pulling away. The bus is out of the station. The horse is out of the barn. We've had our time. We didn't get the acknowledgement. I wouldn't say recognition, all right, but we didn't get the acknowledgement that should have come our way. We fought a lot of different battles just to get you and I on this screen together in 2021. All right. It just wasn't the same. It wasn't a World War II experience, World War One. The doughboys, the guys coming home from Europe, the guys in, the latest group of veterans that came out. I just think for the better part of 25, 30 years that we were better off. People had us better off in the back. A lot of people our age and older felt it was better just not to bring up the Vietnam story 10 years, 20 years, 30 years later because of how they acted back then.
Right.
All right. A lot of these people that say to you today, oh, thank you for your service. You're a veteran. Thank you for your service. Back in 1967, 68, 69, 70,
Right.
71, those weren't the same words they were using. And I wouldn't use some of the words that they did.
Because they got mature.
Because I remember having people say things about things or the way things were. I mean, and listen, the first, like I said, first 5 or 6 years back home for me was extraordinarily rough and tough. I made it worse on myself. You devolve into drugs, alcohol. I don't even know where I was. But eventually, because you have a good family life or something behind you, something you have to pull back and get something. And then, I was married. I had kids. I was starting to move on. I mean, and then, after my first wife, we separated, and I lived up in Carmel actually with her.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I lived up in Carmel with her for a while, and and whatever, and then I met my second wife. I married the first wife twice, by the way. I always wondered about that, and I must have been just like either somebody had me in a trance. I don't know why. I mean, it didn't work the first time, and it wasn't going to work the second time.
I had a friend of mine do the same thing. Married his first wife twice.
I don't know. Why would you do that? But then again, you think you matured. She matured. No, I had 2 boys then, and it didn't work. So anyway, I moved on, and she died a couple of years later anyway. But then I met my wife, Loretta, now, and I have 3 more girls. I have 3 girls, plus the boys, grandchildren, and all of this. And we moved from the Bronx. I moved. I was married. I lived in the Bronx for a long time with Loretta. And then we decided we're out of here. And we left about 14, 15 years ago. We moved up here to Croton. And I got involved with the veterans because I was in the voc rehab and that psychosocial rehab with Lorraine. And, you get involved with veterans. They needed somebody who could speak as a veterans advocate up in Montrose and at Cass Point, it's called the Hudson Valley Healthcare. So they had this veterans advocacy group, and we would sit together and try and help the problems for the veterans we're having trying to navigate the VA system. And you know this, trying to navigate the VA system is almost impossible. It's 250,000 people. There's no fast track. There's always another level you have to go or go. It's crazy. Anyway, I just figured, I really don't want to be bothered with this, but they had given me a computer course to take. That's what really started it. And I had to report to Building 12 in Montrose and the second floor. And that's where Lorraine was running this whole psychosocial rehab group. And we had to start taking this computer literacy course 1 and 2. And, you did it for like an hour, 2 days a week. And they would give you a computer, a scanner, a copier, all that. And it was great. And I learned, how I can, obviously we didn't learn too well. It took us half an hour to finally get on, but we learned that. And then from that, I became chair for the Veterans Advocacy Group in the Hudson Valley, and started to work with the veterans, the VA, and we started to look and see beyond, that little room that we're in, and see if we could help people in the community, the veterans in the community. And we worked on a project right next to Montrose. There's a place called the Round Top. It's a housing development. And so that's how I went by there one day. I was in construction. That's what I did. And I'm watching this construction going on. And I just pulled in. I don't know what made me do it. I just pulled in my car, the 3 minutes from there. Anyway, and it's just before the gate of Montrose. And I pulled into this development they're working on. And I asked the guy, what's going on? He goes, we're building a affordable income housing development here, blah, blah, blah. I says, oh, really? For the veterans? And he looked at me and goes, no, well, not really. It's run by some group from Tarrytown and this, that, and the other thing. And right away, I smelled the rat. I knew something was wrong. So I went and did a little investigation, and I went to Lorraine. I said, what's this about? And she said, well, you got to find this out, find that out. And I did. And they were putting like 92 units of income, for government assistance people here, which is great. Everybody needs a chance to get in a place that's nice, neat, and clean, and hopefully drug-free, without gangsters running around, without people trying to influence your life. And there was no room. There was no mention of a veteran's preference or anything. And we're right next to this huge, iconic, Montrose, people may not realize this, was the first of its kind in this country's history and maybe the world. Nobody came home from any kind of war and had a place to go where they could sit on the river and look at things in a different way. Back then it was called shell shock, World War II.
Right.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt had this vision, and then Truman took it and they completed it. But Montrose was the first of its kind. Nobody was there. My uncle was there after World War II. He passed away in 1982, but he was in Montrose for like 10 years, and then he passed away. But they were all in this, what they used to call shell shock. Nobody realized was post-traumatic. Anyway, we went in, I went before the town board of Cortland because the town supervisor had been told that there were going to be 92 units in her town, and she had to get prepared for it, and blah, 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 blah. And she said, Eugene, what's the problem? I said, because it's right next to the state nursing home, which has all of these senior veterans, and right next to that property is on the Montrose property, which is a federal property, the state leases 10 acres, or they get 10 acres. But the federal property, which is where we went, where I went, you have all these veterans coming in and out. You have people living there, veterans. I said, you're going to put affordable income housing, and you're not going to ask the veterans who now everybody is screaming about housing crisis. Oh, there's a housing crisis. It's homeless. But okay, so now you have 92 units here. How about you guys giving the veterans a preference if they're affordable income and getting them? Well, we had a battle about 6 months, and then finally I wrote to the head of HUD, Housing Urban Development, a guy his name was Jay Johnson. You might hear about him now. I think he's back in with the new administration, but he worked for Obama, President Obama, and wrote back and forth, had a big, meeting. And one day in the mail, I mean, I had to go back down there. I had to do this, had to speak at this organization's meeting. Everybody wanted to know, blah, blah, blah. Naturally, everybody wants to get involved. And I get a letter back in the mail saying, we realized what the problem is. We're going to give you 15 units. And then Linda Puglisi from the town of Cortland says, and I'm going to give you the 8 units that they had given her. She gave to, not me, she gave to the veterans. So there was 23 units from this round top that the veterans, because they were going to do a lottery. They want to pick the names out of a hat, and this is who gets the place. And the first group of housing went to veterans. So they picked veterans' names out. There was 23 out of the 92. They got the first 23 to pull. So with that, I sort of became, I don't know, I'm not famous, but I became known. And Greg Ball asked me to become his, they put me in the State Veterans Hall of Fame, in the District Hall of Fame first, and then the State Hall of Fame, which was a great honor. I'm still amazed that people would actually think that I should be, I'm thinking Hall of Fame. I'm saying, do I stand next to Mickey Mantle and Yogi Berra? Or what, I'm in the Hall of Fame. I was like freaking out, John, Yeah. And it sort of went, then after that, it was just like doors would open and I would just follow that path. And then a door would close and I'd come back to another door. And it would just, I got more and more involved with veterans through Greg Ball. I was the Veterans Affairs for our district and became more and more known. And one day we were contacted by 2 veterans, Iraqi war veterans, young guys, Dale Beatty and John Galena. They headed an organization called Purple Heart Homes. They were from Statesville, North Carolina. And, they were, one had 2 prosthetic legs, he had titanium legs. Young guy, Dale Beatty. And John Galena and he were partners, and they were in a armored vehicle. They had just armored. They had asked their commander, can they just armor this vehicle? And they did. They were in a convoy, and they got blown to smithereens. And the armor saved them from dying, but it took Dale's legs, and John was laying on the ground while they pulled Dale out. And they came to talk to us about Purple Heart Homes and service disabled veterans. And in the meantime, beside this, we were involved in the Military Order of Purple Heart, Chapter 21, which you're still a member of, and I'm actually still a member of. And we all do it our own way. People may not know John Frantangelo wrote a book, but after they read about him, they'll know, and the questions they ask you after that become related to those subjects. Hey, can you help me out? My brother was a veteran, and he can't get into his bathroom with his wheelchair and things, and I had no answers. What am I supposed to do? Now you're supposed to have a list of people that you could send these people to. So when these 2 guys came up with their program about service disabled veterans and their nonprofit, and would we like to do it up here, Greg Ball was like, yeah, this is great. And he says, and Eugene, you'll work with these guys. And I love these 2 guys. They were great. They were great guys, I have to say. I'm just going to get ahead of myself. Dale Beatty, who probably be about 42, died 2018 in February from a double pulmonary embolism. He had blood clots. So I think what happens is the people who don't know anything, I mean, I'm not a doctor, so these things you have to learn as you're going on. You learn, you pick up things. They know how to do all of these amputations. They know how to rehab, John. They could sit you down and we could speak. You could put your shoulder in, or they could try to figure out what's in your mind. But the therapeutics after this became too difficult. They could do the amputations. They could put you on metal. They could have you walk and become part of the community. except that the body circulation of the blood changes, everything changes, because he was a big guy. He was like 6'3", 240, Dale Beatty. And every so often, they would have to take the knees, and they would have to smooth them out because they were on metal all this time. So anyway, he died. He had double pulmonary embolism. I think he had a little bit of a cough or a cold that started it, blah, blah, blah. And John Galena stayed as the face of the organization. And John has a Purple Heart. Dale Beatty had two. Actually, George Bush gave him his in Walter Reed. And then they reached out to Ball. Ball gets me. We all meet, and with my Purple Hearts and theirs, and we were all like going to do 1,000 good things. And, things happened. Like I said, Dale died. But we continued on, and we did a huge project in Pauling. The first one we ever did was a Vietnam veteran, a guy who was in Vietnam, John, 37 days. He was there 37 days.
Got wounded. Yeah.
You know guys like that, right? They get there. The minute they get there, they're thrown in because you're a replacement. You get thrown in. Unless you go with a unit, you're a replacement going in. They're taking a place. One guy's a point guy. Another guy is a automatic weapons guy who's munition. And the kid gets thrown in, and he sees his first sergeant, and it goes in the first 2 days he's there. Things happen, and he gets caught in an ambush and blown up, and he comes back, and he lives the next 45 years or so in Pauling in a house that was 101 years old. It was his grandfather's. Gave it to the mother. The mother and father both died, and they gave it to the brothers. One brother said, I want nothing to do with this, moves to Maryland. And this guy lived in that house with a couple of dogs, and I think he had somebody, he was living in the second floor, huge house. And and some neighbor called up and said, do you guys help Vietnam veterans? Or help veterans? And the girl in Senator Ball's office said, yeah, why? Well, we have this guy, and blah, 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 and it's this, the windows, the porch is falling down, the windows are falling out, he can't. So I jump in a car, I go 13 miles up Route 22, and I go to see this guy's house. I was with another guy, and I go to climb up the steps, and my leg goes through the porch.
Wow.
And I step back out, they pull me out, and the guy comes out of the door, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And we're looking at it, and I'm looking at the mess. And John, I'm one of these guys. Wow, this is terrible. What are we going to do? Rip it down, start from the beginning, and we'll work up. But this guy that I was with is like, he's a designer, he's an architect, he's a builder. He says, no, there's something, this house has character. And he goes into the house, and we go downstairs into the basement, and they were like 16 inches around, sugar maple beams that were holding the house up. Now when I go back outside, I look, the whole block is sugar maples. They're about 4 feet around. They're huge. And we decided to save the house. It cost us $140,000 to do that project. And everything was donated.
Great.
Everything. So that's how we started Purple Heart Homes. And, it's service disabled veterans. You have to own the home. You can't have any tax problems because that guy, he had 3 years worth of tax letters on his desk. And Vietnam veterans, no, I don't know. Yeah, don't worry about it. He says, hey, what, you got all these letters. Did you ever look at them? He said, nah, don't worry about it. It's the Dutchess County Department of Taxation. I take care of them. I give them so much money. And I said, can we just open one up? Open the top one up, the last one. Right. Open it up. And it's telling you that he owes 3 years. And if it's not paid by February of the following year, which this is in August now, this is June. If it's not paid by February 2nd, they're going to put a lock on the door. And then in May, if you don't, give you a dispossess, then they evict you in May. So if you do all that work, they're taking it over. So He owed $16,000. You can't pay it 1 year at a time. If you know about Dutchess County, you have to pay all of that tax all at once now that you owe. So we raised another $16,000, And the project cost altogether about $157,000. So we started with that, and then they asked me if I would run this organization in New York, downstate chapter, and I was a little hesitant at first because, I was retired at the time. I'm 60, at that point, 63, 64, 65, and I'm starting to enjoy my life a little bit, playing a little golf, which is probably the best thing I did was stop playing golf right away. And I kept up my relationship with guys like you and other guys from the Purple Heart and other veterans, the people that I met. I always I go down to the Veterans Day Parade in Manhattan every year, and I lead the Purple Heart Float. Chapter 3 has a Purple Heart Float that they get from, I think, HBO and another organization, and I lead that float every year going up Fifth Avenue. And that's a great thing. You get, the more people see you, the more questions you get asked, the more answers you can give, the more people out in the public get to know what I feel is a problem. I don't know, unless we get somebody to lead this country who's been there. I can't remember. I think Jimmy Carter was the last veteran president. No, I take it back. George Bush, Senior.
Senior, right.
He was the last combat veteran.
He was a pilot.
Right. He jumped down. He got hurt. I mean, I always wondered how we could elect people that had a draft status that was so questionable that people would just dismiss it. Oh, we don't worry about it now. Really? How do you do that? All right. I always thought there should be some requirement of the president of this country, whether it's a man or a woman or a dog or a cat, something you do should be related to service for this country.
Right.
At some point. That's how I feel. And people say, well, then you get a... No, you don't. You'll know what it feels like to live with a group of people and encounter situations every day that requires you and them to work together. Because you know this, you especially, when you're in a place where you're dependent on one another, and you have to use your wits. And you know what happens? I told you this. For me, I used to get that knot the first time something would go wrong. I would get that knot on my stomach, and you'd have to just fight the feeling and go on forward. You couldn't stay there and dwell on being afraid or dwell on thinking you're going to die. You have it's a split second. You got one split second to make you move. So you have to get over it real quick. And you have to. And people who do that actually become better leaders. You know how to think on your feet. You know how to get people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. And I wish that we had that. We haven't had that in this country for a while. So it's left up to people like you, like me, to get the word out about veterans and to put the word out and tell people there's ways you can help. There's ways you can help. I see a million advertisements on television for veterans, the Wounded Warriors, Tunnel to Towers. They do veterans also. All these other things that we could do. All right, because I personally like the idea of somebody going in to help a person who really can't do it themselves. It's not a handout we're given, it's a hand up. I know there are organizations that'll go in and buy you a house. They'll pay off your mortgage, which is great. For those people that need it, that's great. I have no problem with that. I think we should all contribute to that. On the other hand, I like, we do a project. I'm on the site. We're putting up wallboard. We're doing stairs, chairlifts. I did a ramp. We just did a ramp in Suffern. It's 140 feet, almost 140 feet long, 140-foot ramp. And the first 40 foot of that ramp belonged to a veteran that has passed away. He was a World War II veteran. You're going to love this. Donald Ackett. He lived up in Hyde Park. He was a Purple Heart World War II veteran, Battle of the Bulge. One of the most amazing stories ever. At some point, I'll, we'll could talk about that maybe another time. But we gave him a 40-foot ramp, and he had a porch we put together, and he passed away. So what happens is now we got all that wood, all this footing, and all this all the stuff that we put it on the side of his house. His daughter said, "You could keep it here." Now I get a veteran in Suffern, New York, who has a stroke, and now he can't get out of his house. Guy is from the Bronx, and he's now living in a house he bought with his wife and his kids. He lived there for 50 years. And when he buys it, he's a younger guy. He's going up and down the stairs. They got a basement. They got a backyard. Now he has a stroke. Can't move. He's immobile. So he needs a ramp to get in and out. So we run up there. I get a call. I run up there. When we put together 80-foot of ramp, and we need an entrance to the ramp because he's up on a level. And we took the 40-foot from Hyde Park and we repurposed it for this veteran. Now he's got a 140-foot ramp. And the guy gets in and out. We did his bathroom also. But things like that, John. I needed a way to make my peace with the Lord. This is my stairway to heaven, my staircase to heaven. This is what I do.
That's a great thing, Gene. What you're doing is there's no word. It's just above and beyond. Okay.
I don't know if it's above and beyond.
That.
I just think it's something we all should do, man. I don't know.
But not only that, you got your ailments. You didn't even mention it. You got your own ailments here with Agent Orange, and you're doing this with all these ailments. So, God bless you, man. I commend you highly for that.
I try to do. I go to VA. I have doctors and all over. I have a union coverage. I got doctors here and there. You know what it is too? I tell people that. I lived a hard and fast life. That's all there is to it. I lived fast and loose. It's the way I lived, the street thing. It's the way it was. I was always there. And
yep.
And sometimes it catches up to you at the end. I try to keep myself. God, I'm 74 years old. Things don't work the same as they did in 64 as they do in 2014 and beyond. I try to maintain my health as much as possible, but I have a good board. I work with a guy named Mark Frantangelo, who's the president of our board. All right, he's a big contractor up here. He's very generous and he listens and we listen to what I have to say. And he's a great business guy. He knows what he's talking about. This woman, Lorraine Lathrop, who's our, beside the veteran, who's the service disabled veteran that we're obliged, but that's our mission statement to help them. There's a family around that too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Something happens to you, they got to come and watch, see what they can do for John Frantangelo. But what about his wife? What about his children? If they're going, somebody has to take care of them. How do we know that these people they're putting up with this Vietnam veteran for 30 years, say, and she's just about to jump off a bridge because he's crazier than, he's a jar of cashews. I hate to say that, but that's just, I can imagine my first wife and my second wife. They must have been saying to themselves, where did I find this guy?
Right.
Where did I find him? And so, you got to take care of those people too. That's another component to this that I do. And in my chapter, with this, like 23 chapters around the country, we are the only ones that have a person that's suited to do that. When she asks questions, Lorraine, it's like she's back in the VA. She's retired now. It's like she's back in the VA asking her people, so what did you do to help yourself? How did you get this done? Did you try this method? So she's good at that. And then I also have a guy, Lou Giordano, Bronx Yonkers guy. He owns Croton Auto Park. So he's very generous with us, also a business mind, good guy. And then I have a woman who's an accountant. That's what she does. She's an accountant for, I think, the town of Greenberg, Roberta Romano. So I run the daily, day-to-day as executive director, but whenever I need something or I have to go something, I go through the board And if there's something that we can't come to an answer on, I always have the headquarters in Statesville and John Galena, who's a combat veteran like us. So him and I, when we speak, he could speak to all the other people in that organization. There's only a few combat veterans, only a few Purple Heart guys. And I think him and I and one other guy are Purple Heart recipients. So when we speak to one another, it's like I speak to you. We could say a lot of things, but I know in my heart, John Frantangelo knows what it's like to be up against the wall. All right. And there are times when you think you're not coming home, and you think this is it. And you got to use whatever you have in you to get over that hurdle and to get to the next step. And I know I could talk to you, and I know you know that feeling. And the same thing with John Galena and I. I know, he saw his best friend, that's his best friend, get blown. And the big part about, a lot of this is guilt. When they were driving that vehicle, they stopped the convoy stopped, and he turned around to Dale, and he said, Dale was on the machine gun on the 50. And he says, Dale, you want to drive and I'll stay up there? And Dale said, yeah, okay. So they switch. 5 minutes later, he gets hit with the IED. He survives. The other guy does. Well, the other guy survives, but he loses his legs. And then the story proceeds from there. They take Dale to Walter Reed. John doesn't see him for a year. And he's recovering from his own, he's got all these invisible wounds. He's blah, blah, blah. He gets a Purple Heart. He goes back to Statesville, North Carolina. Another story. John Galena, Italian guy. And I always said to him, first of all, there are no Italians in North Carolina. There aren't any. This has got to be a witness protection program for your family. You know what I'm saying? So he starts laughing, but he grew up with Dale. They were like best friends. And now his friend comes home from Walter Reed, and now he has to go through life. And he's got a couple of kids, and he's got to adjust to a new life. He's got a house down there. Now the whole house has to be tailored to fit him. So John is a construction guy, and he gets his group together, and they go around and they help Dale Beatty. Dale Beatty comes home, and they're working. He's helping them work. They're rebuilding this wall. They're taking out this bathroom. They're putting up a ramp. And Dale Beatty's overwhelmed by the people in his community that would step out and do this. And he says to John, we should do something for the other veterans like me, or just who can't help themselves, and put them in a position that you people put me in. So they started Purple Heart Homes, and they reached out to as many people as they could. And we hope that people will come out and say, listen, very hard to get a veteran to say, I need help. You know that. I need help. You got to come here and help me. It's very hard. So anyway, that's basically what I do. And just like I said in the beginning, I just wanted one more thing I want to bring up to you. To all the people out there, we're doing a parade on August 7th. The Purple Heart and a Medal of Honor parade. August 7th is National Purple Heart Day. And I work in an organization, also another organization, the State Medal of Honor Committee. And a gentleman named Peter Fumafreda, Bronx guy, a couple of years older than John and I. And he puts this parade together. I'm on the board. And this year, we're going to address a few people, we're going to honor a few people. We had a couple of Medal of Honor guys. One guy is very ill. We don't think he's going to make it. But the other guy is the first Marine to get the Medal of Honor in Vietnam, a guy named Bobby O'Malley, about 5'6". I don't know how we got the strength to do what he did, but Bobby O'Malley is going to be there as our Medal of Honor recipient. And one of our other honorees is going to be John Frantangelo, my pal from Monmouth Park, I guess, right, John, 180th Street. And John will be there, and he's going to tell his story. And we're going to, after we do this little parade, be in town of Mount Pleasant, we're going to try and put together as many people we can. He always gets a nice little turnout. Then we have a little musical deal going on after the whole thing. And we're going to have Larry Chance and the Earls.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's very good friends with Larry Chance and the Earls.
Okay.
So then you'll see him again, and we do a dinner the night before, and our friend from Arthur Avenue comes if he's there, but he always come. They always come, and we get a great turnout. And this year it's going to be in Mount Pleasant. We were going to do it in Yorktown, but it becomes administrative headache to clear all the hurdles. You need cops, you need firemen, you need sanitation, you need to get the roads cleared, you need to get permission to use this, you need to get permission to shut the. So we're gonna invite those people down to see what we do. We did it a couple of years ago. Remember, we did it in Putnam County, in town of Carmel, and it's going to be a nice event. And if anybody wants to come by, we'll have some people there. You'll hear a few speakers. I'm sure a few of our elected officials will find their way to the stage to say a few things, people will get to hear John give us a few words about his experience and whatever. And I'm glad that we got together to do this. I'm actually going to do an interview with John myself, and I'm going to put it on my YouTube, so I could actually. I that's what I do best. I try to beg money from the general public to help do these, because you can't do these projects without money.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, so I have to do what I have to do. So, I try to make people feel guilty or whatever, kidding around, trying to do this. But that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to have our tent there. Purple Heart Homes will be there also. And John and Bobby O'Malley. And hopefully we might have one more younger guy. I believe he's trying to reach out to an Afghanistan Medal of Honor recipient. And we'll see what happens from there. Mm-hmm. All right, John, what do you think?
That was great. What you're telling, that's great, man. You really enlightened a lot of people about a lot of things that it goes on with the VA and help and the aid to veterans. Like I said, man, God bless you, Gene. All right,
telling you, John. What happens when guys like us, and what really, it little things people don't think about. We were drafted. A lot of us were drafted. There were 9 to 10 million people during the Vietnam era. 9 to 10 million of us. Mm-hmm. Today, the military is less than 1 million people. I think the armed forces, I'm thinking the Marines, I think there's less than 400,000 Army guys. Really? I don't even think there's 400,000. I don't. I mean, we used to have 600,000 people in Vietnam at any one time. Right. So there's not, the military is not, there is not as many people in the military. So going forward, there's not going to be that many veterans. Once the World War II guys are just about gone, Korea guys are nearing the end. The Vietnam guys are all in our 70s, going south.
Right. And what
happens in 10, 15 years when there's very few of us and there's not enough of these younger generation veterans to pick up the ball and fight the fight? Who's gonna, there are some people in Congress now, but what I'm seeing a lot of, I'm really disappointed in a lot of these kids, and I shouldn't be. It's, the way the whole education department has changed the way they educate kids in the last 50 years. It's not like, you know how many kids know about Vietnam? You know how many kids?
I know, no, I don't.
0.
I know.
All right. They mentioned George Washington once in the first 8 years of school. Once. George Washington. All right. You want to know why they're tearing down Abraham Lincoln and all these people? They don't talk about them in schools. That's what the problem is.
Yeah.
So the people that are our veterans, that are in our Congress, in the legislature, in politics, they're the ones that got to stand up and say, no, enough of this. Right. And you want to know what? There are some of them, some of the people that are representing our country that are just disgraceful. Just disgraceful. One senator, I won't even mention his name, but I believe he was a Marine. I'm not sure. He was a veteran. Said he was in Vietnam. He never left the country.
I know. I know what you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about? He gets elected. And then he gets reelected. Yeah. What the hell are people thinking?
They're not thinking. That's the
problem. There's a guy you're going to trust. Would you trust him, John? How can you trust a guy like that?
I don't trust any one of those. No. Ever since I say it in the book, I never had trust for the government. One of these days we got to get on. We got to talk. I don't want to get to because I get going on it, and one thing into another, and I kind of get very angry, and I got to try to subdue myself.
You want me?
I'm watching.
I'm like the fire.
Yeah, as I'm watching my country get destroyed right under my feet and before my eyes, and there's nothing being done about it.
Wow.
And the people just do not realize what's happening here. They really don't realize it yet. They're getting, just to make a point, they've been brainwashed and lied to and so many times that they got their heads buried in the sand.
Absolutely.
And they don't realize that they're getting a wooden pole right up their butt, okay?
You don't get
and they're going to shove it up more and more and more until it goes through their throat and they can't speak no more because that pole is taking all their rights away. And before you know it, they're going to get their heads out of the sand and it's going to be too late. And they're going to say, oh my God, what did we do? All right. So, I mean,
it's way too late.
Get into it.
And we use these words all the time. I hear so many people, freedom and liberty, freedom and liberty. Well, every time you let the government do something for you, there goes some of your freedom, and that takes away from whatever liberty you're looking for.
Right.
You can't do that. You got to be able to stand up on your own. I don't know how the people going forward are going to get this. People get their news from one source and one source only. Some look around to see but a lot of people just like to hear what they've been told for 40 years. They've been going to school, they've come out of school, and now this is what they've learned, and they could never understand why we could see something different than they see, and that we're just not ideologically as able as they are to understand the human condition. They make this difficult. This is not difficult. Here's the deal, all right? Ronald Reagan said, get out of the way. Get the government out of the way. That means more freedom and more liberty.
Right.
I guess some people like the idea of having somebody pull the strings for them and say, okay, don't worry about it. You don't have to do much. Just go to your mailbox or go to your direct deposit. There'll be a check in there for you, and then shut up the rest of the time.
Right.
Something wrong with you? You want to go to a hospital? You'll have to wait 2 months.
Yeah. Let me elaborate on that. I want to tell you people out there listening, please listen to me. Okay. They're sending us a stimulus check for $1,400. Okay. Now, what they're doing is they got a steak dinner, a 3-course meal on the table, and they're making us the puppies under the table and giving us crumbs. Okay. Now, I got an oil deal. I got a 1,000-gallon tank of oil. I got an oil delivery about a week and a half ago. Cost me, the oil went from $1.89 to $2.60. That's 71 cents a gallon. Okay, I have a 1,000-gallon tank. So let's say they put 900, right? So that's $630 more. I get a delivery 4 times a year. So you're talking about $2,620. Okay. Now the gasoline went up 50 cents a gallon.
That's
I
right.
got 3 vehicles. That's $10 more a fill up. Okay. Now you're talking. Altogether, you're talking about almost $5,000 a year. And that's only the beginning. It's going to go higher, and the taxes are going to go up. So you're giving me $1,400? That's a smack in the face to all of us. People.
And the $1,400 actually is your money.
Exactly.
That's right. Your tax money.
But you don't understand. Understand this. They already had $1 trillion that they didn't spend from the last.
They didn't spend it. It's still there.
They got almost 2. So you got $3 trillion. Okay, they could have sent every American family probably $10,000 each.
And that would have been better.
Right? Okay. No, what do? Believe me, people, you're being blindfolded, you're being lied to, you're being cheated, and before you know it, you're not going to have a freedom in this country at all. Please believe me on this. You got to trust me on this.
And I hope
they're taking you for fools.
I hope people listen to you. And this has nothing to do. I mean, I know people hit. The question that gets thrown back at me all the time is, oh, so you were a Trump guy. No, listen to me. I didn't think Trump in the beginning was the guy I would vote for. I like somebody else. But I know who Trump is. He's a Queens kid who had a lot of money. All right? So you don't like him? He's got a mouth. I'm a Bronx guy. I said a lot of things. If I had money, I'd be worse than him. Who knows? Who knows? Yes.
The baby's sleeping. I'm gonna step out real quick.
Okay, go right ahead. I'm gonna come upstairs in about 10 minutes. Yeah. So so it's not that because we're Trump guys or Trump women. It's just because it's it's just right. There's no such thing as, oh, he's a Democrat, so he believes this, and he's a Republican. No. There's the way the Constitution was written. And in the Constitution, it tells you this is what you can do, and this is what the government can do. And the rest of the things, you have the ability to make your own decisions. I don't want to have the government tell me everything. Oh, well, they're giving you money so they can tell you everything they do. That's what happens.
Right. Why do you
become a ward of the state?
Why do you think they're stopping the kids from going to school? Okay, because they want a bunch of morons to be raised in this country,
exactly
so
right.
they can control you and do everything you want and feed you in your head, and they won't be, your children and grandchildren are not going to be able to do anything on their own. Okay, they're going to be told what to do. Okay.
I don't even think you have to wait that far, grandchildren. I think it's happening in the next 10 years.
Yeah, okay. And with the open borders, now if they cared for us people, us Americans, okay, do you think they would let these immigrants coming in who are tested COVID for the pandemic, okay, and they're spreading them out throughout the country? They're not even stopping them; they're letting them go. Okay, so you figure how many more people are going to get sick or die? This guy running this, I will never call him president. He's not a president. He's not my president. He's a wind-up doll that they shoved in the back door, okay? And he doesn't know where he's at, what he's doing. The guy's going to get us all in trouble. And I'm telling you right now, he's alienating our allies, and he's siding with Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China, our four most worst enemies. Now this guy is going to destroy us. I'm telling you, people, please
get can't. And you know what people say? Oh well, he's been around. He knows his way around. No, he was a legislator for 50 years. He was a terrible legislator. He never did anything good. He never legislated anything that you could point to. He never did. So now he's an administrator. This guy is suffering from dementia. If they can't say it, they know it. They already know it. They already got their move made. She's going to become the president soon. I get that. I know that.
He sold America out years ago, and now his whole family's benefited by it. Okay, come on, people, wise up. See what's right. You got a tidal wave coming right at you, and it's going to hit you, and you're going to be drowned. Okay, and it's coming very soon. And this guy's going to bring the wrath of God down on us. Okay.
And I'm thinking his son, they stopped it. They didn't stop the investigation, but you haven't heard much about it. No, but here's what I don't think people get. They were very friendly with China, the whole family.
Right.
He's gotten money from them. They did this. Do you don't think that there's videos of this kid somewhere doing something really stupid that the Chinese are going to blackmail him with? They're going to hold it again. They're going to hold it up and say, this is what you need from us. This is what we need from you. Otherwise, this goes public. And they're going to show the people what they got. And this guy's going to and let me tell you something. Yo, you ready?
Yeah, I'm out.
All right, go ahead. I'm going upstairs. All right. And when they do this, all right, this guy, all right, this Nancy Pelosi is the most treacherous person I have ever seen in my life.
Sold her soul to the devil.
She sold her soul, John. She knows that this guy is not capable. She had this whole thing planned, the 25th Amendment. They're going to remove this guy with the 25th Amendment, and Kamala Harris is going to be the president. What a shame.
Oh yeah, there's another one. My God.
Let's end on a positive. No.
People don't know what you're in for. I'm telling you, man.
I'm serious. John, I got to go. I'm going to run up because I got to babysit now. This is what happens to us, right? I'm babysitting for my granddaughter.
Okay.
So, yeah. And I really appreciate you having me on. It's been great. And tell your wife I said hello. I saw her in the beginning. And then when I'm getting my equipment, and I'm going to do a bunch of interviews so I could put them out on YouTube because we can't do any fundraisers yet.
Okay.
I don't know. And you know what? Like one more thing before we go, I just got to say.
Go ahead.
That the governor of this state, his last name ends in a vowel. I only want to mention his name. What a disgraziata that this had to be, and that I got to hear people tell me, "Oh, that Italian guy up there." I hate that. I hate that. I mean, come on, man. I mean, really. And it's disgraceful. And the guy in New York City, whose last name isn't De Blasio, his real name is Warren Wilhelm. He used his mother's maiden name so he could win votes with the Italian community. Are you kidding me? Is this what we've come down to? All right, that we have to have people try to play us like this? I'm ashamed of myself. I'm ashamed that to even say that we share a heritage, and we don't. We really don't.
No,
we really don't.
Sure. Nope.
Anyway,
okay.
I'm gonna say adios, my friend.
Okay.
All right.
You
Two
too.
guys from the Bronx. That's a great show. We should do that together.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we should do it. And when I get my equipment, I'm gonna get it set up. We'll come do a nice interview. We'll have some fun. We'll talk. And listen, the best to you and your family. All right. I wish nothing for the best. I hope the book takes off, and people should read it and try it. If you're not of this age, or you're not of the age, try and think. You got to try and put yourself back in 1967, 68,
right,
at the height of all of this. I mean, the world flipped in the 60s. I know it's flipping now, but the world flipped from the conservative, really, the 50s where everything was just this way. And then the 60s came along, and the Beatles, and this, and the hippie, and this, and the girls, and everything, sex, drugs, everything just flipped. It did a 180. And you had to be there to feel it. So when you read a book about Vietnam, you got to try and feel that the people who went there and the people who served their country in whatever capacity, all right, it was really something that not a lot of people liked. All right, it wasn't like we got this parades coming home. It wasn't. It was difficult to live in that time, but you had to do what you think is right. You had to do it. And what were we going to do? What was I going to do? I got drafted. I didn't join. I got drafted. But like my father said, he said to me, we were sitting at the table, I got my draft notice. He said, so Canada is not an option, he said. You know, my father was a World War II guy, got wounded in Omaha Beach. I got an aunt that was, I have 10 aunts and uncles that were in World War II and blah, 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 you know, and all of this. My cousin Charles was already in Vietnam in the tank corps. It just, where was I going? You went, you did what you had to do. And that's another thing. You mean to tell me we can't find, I think when they dismantled the draft, they effed this country up in a lot more ways than find, oh yeah, we saved all this money financially. No, you did not. Because look at what's going on around you. These people have no stake in this country. What do they care about America? We're going to fight for them no matter what. So they can do whatever they want to do. No, put the uniform on, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go run 2 miles, all right? Get yourself in shape, and then the next thing you know, when the bombs are bursting in air over your head, you'll know what it feels like.
All right.
Then you'll know about, well, I'll do this. I don't worry about it. Don't stand for the flag. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah,
real fast. Another thing. Like I mentioned, the 4 countries that are highest enemies. Right now, they're not worried about them. They're more worried about eliminating
fossil fuels.
Dr. Seuss, Peter Pan, Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
They want to eliminate cartoon characters, and meanwhile they're building up their militaries overseas to fight in space, all the naval and then now the nuclear weapons. Please, you got to understand what's going on here, people. Please, you got to understand what's going on. Stop listening to these NBC, ABC, CBS, and CNN. Their people are lying to their teeth, and they all know they're lying, and that's what gets me mad. They know they're lying.
About cartoons, you're right. We're worried about cartoons, and these people are built. China is actually building islands in the South China Sea and making them military bases.
Yep.
All right. They've already taken back Hong Kong. Taken it back. They've taken Hong Kong, one of the world's greatest financial business centers in history. Gone. They're gone.
I know.
And the next thing is Taiwan. Now what? You promised those people in Taiwan that you would never abandon them. That's what we told them years and years ago.
Right.
And now they're going to, you know what? If it happens, it's going to happen soon because they know Biden would never stand up to China and Taiwan.
With this bum in here and this idiot that he is, forget about it. I mean, really, I get so mad. I mean, because we fought for this country.
We fought for these countries.
These people don't even know what it is to go out there and shoot a BB gun at somebody. We fought for this country, okay? We seen our friends die, okay? And now this idiot comes in here. He's in Congress almost 50 years and hasn't done a damn thing. And these people think, you know, I read on, listen to this. I was on Facebook and I read this woman come in and said, Joe Biden did more in 55 days than Donald Trump did in 4 years. I mean, where's this woman living, on another planet? I mean, really? I mean, come on. I'm telling you, people ain't gonna have you're not gonna have any extra money in your pockets anymore because you're gonna be spending it through your butthole, okay?
And they're gonna tax us out of existence.
Yep.
All of these programs you want, this Green New Deal, the whole fossil fuel thing, and all that, and just the infrastructure and everything else, the education. Who do you think is going to pay for that? Oh yeah, the rich. How you can tax the super rich, take all their money, don't give them a nickel. You will make a dent in what it's going to cost you to do this whole Green New Deal, the infrastructure, the whole. And listen, the way they're going to forgive all debt, college debt, that. Okay, fine. You know what? I want to go to college. I'm going to see if I can get into a college so I can beat them for like $100,000.
Yeah, they're all idiots. They're all. It's not. They're insane. They are insane. They lost their mind.
I definitely believe that they're insane. All right, John. I got to run up and take care of my granddaughter. It's been a real pleasure. We'll get together. I'll call you soon. All right.
All right, bud. Thank you.
Everybody out there, thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure doing this again, John.
Great, Eugene. Great. Take it. Say hello. Love you, buddy.
Welcome back, my brother.
You too, buddy. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. So I want to just close out with people, and you know, if you're really interested in checking my book out, you can go